What if I told you your life is being shaped right now by actions so small, so seemingly meaningless that you barely notice them? A single sip of soda, one skipped workout. A man who nearly lost everything after a devastating accident in high school but clawed his way back, one habit at a time. This isn't just another self-help book telling you to be more disciplined or set big goals. Because when you understand how habits work, you realize something extraordinary. It's a profound, science-backed blueprint for reprogramming the way you live. By focusing on the tiniest atomic-level changes that lead to extraordinary transformation. A 5-minute scroll on your phone when you said you'd read a book? It's not the massive goals we set that define us. It's the invisible patterns we live by, the habits. But here's the haunting truth. The most powerful forces that shape your destiny are often the quietest. And once you hear it, you'll never look at your daily life the same way again. This is the message at the heart of Atomic Habits, a modern classic written by James Clear. What makes this book unforgettable isn't just the strategies, though those are brilliant. It's the way it redefines success. It shifts the spotlight from grand, unsustainable sprints to quiet, deliberate steps, from motivation to identity, from the outcome to the system. This is not about becoming superhuman overnight. It's about becoming 1% better every day and letting time do the rest. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. This is Atomic Habits, a story of human potential hidden in the smallest choices. The story of Atomic Habits doesn't begin in a boardroom or at a motivational seminar. It begins on a baseball field, and then violently in a hospital bed. James Clear was a teenager when a baseball bat struck him in the face, a freak accident. His skull shattered, his eye socket crushed. He was placed in a medically induced coma. For days, he drifted between life and death. When he finally woke, everything had changed. Physically, mentally, emotionally, he had to start over. Couldn't walk straight, couldn't focus. You're forced to start small. It's by going to the gym, even if all he did was show up. It's by reading just a few pages a day. The progress was almost invisible. He dismantles it. Because motivation is fickle, systems are not. You don't need to be in the mood to win. You need to build an environment where winning is the default. But slowly, it compounded. Couldn't return to school for months. For someone who dreamed of playing professional baseball, his identity was ripped away in an instant. But in that space, in that hollow silence of what could have been, he discovered something extraordinary. When you can do big things, make the habit obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. These 4 laws, the laws of behavior change, become the pillars of the book's strategy. So he did. He built his life back not by chasing dreams, but by brushing his teeth at the same time every night. Leave your yoga mat in the middle of your room. The goal is to design visual triggers that act like signposts, guiding your attention toward positive actions. A tiny dopamine hit from connection or curiosity satisfied. Make it satisfying. Habits that feel good stick. That's how your brain works. So build in rewards. Visual trackers, celebrations. The satisfaction becomes a loop closing mechanism, a neurological anchor. This is called temptation bundling, and it hijacks your brain's reward system in your favor. He teaches that every action is a vote for the kind of person you wish to become, because it forces you to ask, are my daily actions aligned with the person I believe I am or want to be? When you write every day, you are not just producing content, you're becoming a writer. When you train consistently, you are not just burning calories, you're becoming an athlete. This is the heartbeat of Atomic Habits. Small habits, repeated consistently, become the building blocks of remarkable change. Clear argues that the decisive moment, the first 2 minutes, is the real battleground. You change your life by deciding, I'm the kind of person who never misses a workout. I'm the kind of person who writes even when it's hard. And then, proving it to yourself. You're no longer someone trying to be disciplined. The system behind success, you are disciplined. It's not performance, it's who you are. One small win at a time. If you master that, you've already won. Make the result unsatisfying. It's not about beating yourself up. It's about rewriting the script. Clear doesn't preach motivation. It begins with understanding a simple truth. Every habit follows a 4-step loop. Cue, craving, response, reward of athletes, CEOs, artists, everyday people. One man lost over 100 pounds, not by joining a gym, but by mastering the art of never missing twice. That was his rule. If he slipped up, he didn't beat himself up. He simply never let it happen 2 days in a row. Let's take something as simple as checking your phone. The cue, a notification buzzes. Change is hard because your systems are perfectly designed for your current results. The craving, you want to see who it's from? He calls it behavioral architecture, shaping your habits by shaping your surroundings. The response, you pick up the phone and check. The reward, over time, this becomes automatic. It becomes who you are. Clear's genius is in showing how to reverse engineer this loop. Not by fighting it, but by designing it. Want to read more books? Don't rely on willpower. Place the book on your pillow. Remove the friction. Let's break them down. 1. Make it obvious. If you don't see the cue, you won't take the action. Want to start meditating? 2. Make it attractive. Bundle something you need to do with something you want to do. Listen to your favorite podcast only while walking. 3. Make it easy. Reduce the friction. Want to work out? Don't plan a full 60-minute routine. Start with 2 push-ups. 4. But what if you're trying to break a bad habit? Clear flips the 4 laws. Make the cue invisible. Make the craving unattractive. Make the action difficult. By this point in the book, you begin to realize change isn't hard because you're broken. Clear weaves this insight through real stories. That's the power of identity-based habits. Because ultimately, this book isn't about what you want to achieve. It's about who you want to become. James Clear makes a radical shift from goal setting to identity shaping. This concept hits hard, he explains. You don't change your life by setting massive goals. And slowly, something magical begins to happen. Not only do your habits change, your identity begins to shift. By the middle of Atomic Habits, the reader is no longer obsessed with results. They're obsessed with process, the invisible mechanics of change, because that's where the transformation truly begins. As the story of Atomic Habits unfolds, it becomes increasingly clear. The secret to extraordinary results isn't in revolution, but in evolution. The steady, consistent refinement of daily actions over time. It's that frustrating zone where you're doing all the right things, showing up, putting in the work, but seeing no visible results. The weight isn't dropping, so the book isn't getting finished. The savings account isn't growing. James Clear doesn't just show you how to build better habits. He shows you why most people fail, and how to escape the invisible traps that keep us stuck. One of the most haunting concepts introduced in the second half of the book is what Clear calls the plateau of latent potential. But it didn't happen that day. It happened because you didn't give up before that day, and most people quit in that zone. Everyone misses a day. Everyone slips. The difference is what happens next. But Clear offers a different perspective. Progress is not linear, but just challenging enough to keep you engaged. He uses examples from sports, business, and art to show how mastery isn't about doing the same thing over and over. It's about pushing just beyond your comfort zone again and again. The athlete stops training as hard. The entrepreneur loses focus. The writer stops writing daily. That's why goals by themselves are fragile. Systems are durable. It's build habits not for a season, but for a lifetime. It's a quiet rebellion against the myth of overnight success. It's a return to something timeless. To fall in love with the process, not the prize. Or do you catch yourself, breathe, and return? Might just be the next tiny habit you choose to build. It's exponential. Missing twice is the start of a new habit. Habits are like seeds planted in the soil. Growth happens in silence, underground, long before it's visible to the eye. Because it reminds us, perfection is not the goal. Persistence is. They find joy not in what they do, but in the refinement of how they do it. Change your space. You begin to realize that every tiny choice is a brushstroke on the canvas of your character. That identity is not fixed. It's forged, habit by habit, day by day. Make good choices easy, make bad ones hard. But inevitable, you are not failing because you're weak. You're failing because you're surrounded by cues that reward the wrong behaviors. The early work is never wasted. It's stored. It's compounding. Then one day, the breakthrough comes. This is where Atomic Habits begins to feel less like a guidebook. He shows how people are more likely to continue a habit when they see progress, even just checking a box on a calendar. It taps into our primal desire for consistency. Once we see a streak, we want to protect it. And more like a philosophy of life, showing how your surroundings, more than your willpower, determine your actions. He tells the story of a British hospital that dramatically increased water consumption, not by preaching health benefits, but by simply placing water bottles at eye level in coolers. Sales soared. Clear dives deeper into the concept of environment design. It wasn't the people that changed, it was the context. Want to change your habits? Then comes one of the most empowering chapters in the book: how to stick with good habits, even when life gets hard. James Clear introduces the idea of habit tracking, a simple but powerful tool to build visual momentum. But even more powerful is the mindset Clear calls never miss twice. Because the enemy of habit isn't failure, it's discouragement. Do you spiral into self-judgment? Missing once is an accident, he writes. That line hits hard. In the later chapters, Clear introduces the idea of the Goldilocks zone, the sweet spot where habits are neither too easy nor too hard. The best performers, he reveals, don't rely on passion, they rely on practice, systems, feedback loops. And this is where the book moves from practical to profound. Clear warns against the danger of success. The idea that once you achieve a goal, the habits that got you there can quietly erode. If goals are about the finish line, systems are about becoming the kind of person who keeps running, even when no one's watching. The climax of Atomic Habits isn't a single story, it's a series of revelations, a shift in mindset. And perhaps the most powerful idea comes near the end. Success is not about radical change, it's about alignment. When your habits are aligned with your values, your environment, and your desired identity, change becomes not just possible. James Clear invites you to think long-term, because in the end, Atomic Habits isn't just a book about productivity or discipline. That excellence is built in silence. That greatness grows in inches, not miles. And that the most powerful force in your life, Atomic Habits isn't a novel. There are no heroes in capes or villains to defeat. But that doesn't mean it lacks characters, because the most important character in the story is you. But the result of countless micro-decisions, actions taken in solitude, repeated over time, that shape who you become. His presence throughout the book is subtle but grounding, not just as an author. Real people, from Olympic athletes to overwhelmed students, who use tiny systems to transform their lives. There's no single character arc here. Instead, the characters represent a collective journey. Ordinary people unlocking extraordinary potential, not by doing more, but by doing better. But as a wounded teenager who rebuilt his life one habit at a time, his story isn't told for drama. It's told for proof. Proof that small changes are not weak or slow. They're the only changes that truly last. The room you work in, the people you spend time with, like much. Until you realize it leads to a 37x improvement over a year. Tiny gains, repeated, become unstoppable momentum. Time magnifies everything, especially our habits. Systems are ongoing. You rise to the level of your ambitions. You fall to the level of your systems. That's not just a memorable quote. It's a philosophy of life. The cues in your kitchen. Change isn't just internal, it's architectural. James Clear builds this book around a simple truth. You are not the product of one moment. In that sense, your identity becomes the silent protagonist. Clear invites you to stop thinking in terms of goals, writer, athlete, leader, and start thinking in terms of votes. One rooted in patience, consistency, and the radical belief that small is powerful. Every small habit is a vote toward the kind of person you wish to be. Not all votes have to be unanimous, but the direction of your choices becomes your story. That each day gives us another chance to cast a vote, however small, for the person we want to become. And then there's James Clear himself. He introduces us to others too. But Clear flips the script. Don't ask what result you want. Who is the type of person that could achieve that? Then start becoming them, one action at a time. And beneath these stories run the deep themes that make Atomic Habits far more than a book on behavior. 1. Identity over outcomes. We're taught to chase goals. I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to write a book. 2. Environment shapes behavior. Clear pulls back the curtain on how much our surroundings dictate our choices. 3. Compound growth over time, a 1% improvement each day. Docent sound. 4. Systems over goals. Goals are momentary. 2 quotes capture the soul of this book. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. And you should be far more concerned with your current trajectory than with your current results, because it's not where you are now, it's where your habits are taking you. There's also a quiet, underlying theme that resonates deeply: hope. This book whispers something many of us have forgotten: that change is possible, that we are not doomed by our past, nor shackled by our failures. In a world obsessed with fast hacks and loud breakthroughs, Atomic Habits feels like a quiet revolution. Because in the end, the hero of this story isn't James Clear. It's not an Olympic athlete or a CEO. It's the person who decides right now to change just one small thing, and then does it again tomorrow.
There's a moment after you finish Atomic Habits where you don't feel overwhelmed. You feel empowered, because James Clear doesn't just hand you a toolbox. He gives you the keys to something far greater: a new lens on life, a realization that you don't have to wait for motivation for the right time, a single page read, a single kind word, or for some life-altering event to begin changing. You can begin today, right now, with something so small it almost feels laughable. But that's the point. It's about being strategic. It's the small things that hold the greatest power. A single push-up. They don't change the world in that moment, but they change you. Or growing something of your own. Let this be the truth you carry forward. Then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Every click helps us bring more powerful stories like this to life and keeps the wisdom flowing. Thanks for being part of the journey, and that changes everything. This book is a gift for the overwhelmed, the discouraged, the high achievers chasing burnout, and the quiet souls who they always believe there is a better version of themselves hiding beneath the noise. It's for anyone who's ever thought, maybe I'm just not disciplined enough. Because Atomic Habits tells you, it's not about being perfect. It's not about being fearless. It's about being consistent. And it's not about changing everything at once. It's about changing one thing many times. So if you're standing at the edge of change, whether it's fitness, writing, parenting, healing, you are always one habit away from a different life. If this story moved you, challenged your thinking, or simply sparked your curiosity,